Hello and welcome to the session on Python logging. Why would you use log files? Logging is better than printing information to the console. You can print information to the console when you are developing your software, but once your software is in production, you will not be printing information to the console. Instead, you will log information, and in fact, when your product is in production, about the only reasonable way to understand problems or things that are going on in your code is through logging. There are a couple types of Python logging. There's basic logging, which is very simple. There's also an advanced form of logging, which gives you more flexibility in many areas. Some of the basics of logging: you will import the logging module, which is part of Python. You will log at a particular level. The levels would be debug. This is helpful when you are building your software. You can log informational messages, which are useful for logging something to do with a notable event that you want to be aware of when you examine a log file. You can log warning messages. If something that's unexpected occurs, you may want to log that information. You will want to log errors when something fails, a piece of the system fails. And critical messages will be logged when the entire system fails and there's a serious problem that will cause the system not to operate at all. When you configure your logging, you will provide a file name into which the logging messages will be placed. You will create a format for your log messages, which can include the date, the module which is logging the information, and the message that you want to provide. You will also provide the logging level. So if it is an informational log message, you will provide that information. In order to execute a log message, then you will call the logging module, and the method that you call will be either info or warning or critical, depending on the severity of the message that you are logging. The actual message itself can be complicated in that you can have strings which will be substituted so that your log messages will be rich and contain useful information. Here's a logging example. Notice that we will import the logging module. We will configure logging by calling the basic config method, and we will pass in the file name, the format, which is going to use some keywords such as ASC time, which will print out the date and time for the message, as well as the message. And the level of logging will be set to informational. What that says is that anything informational and more severe will get printed to the log file. Anything less than that, such as debug messages, will not get printed to the log file. When you actually log a message, you will call logging dot whatever the level of the logging message is. In this case, it's info. And here we see the string that we're passing in. You can see the %s. That is what will be substituted by the values that you see at the end of the log message. The first value that will be substituted will be the length of the devices list that we've read, and the second one will be the file name of the device that we've read it from. You can also do advanced logging. In order to do this, you will be using logging handlers. When you use advanced logging, you will create an individual logger for every one of your modules, which will inherit from your parent logger, and you can use dot notation in order to specify the parent from which we will be deriving some of our attributes when you log. The things that we will provide for our logger will be a file handler. There are multiple types of file handler, including rotating file handler, that will cause the file to rotate through a sequence of file names so that you don't have only one log file. You can also specify more rich formatting using a formatter. When you execute your logging, what you will do is you will get a logger, as shown in the code at the bottom. Logging.getLogger gives you a reference to a logger, and then you will use that to log your messages. Here's an example of advanced logging. We import the logging module, and we will also import the module called logging.handlers. Then we will create our logger and set the log level. We will then define our handler. Creating our handler, you can see we're creating a rotating file handler that will create rotating files as we mentioned, and then we will set the formatter for our handler. And here you can specify a richer set of formatting than you can with simple logging. You will add this handler to the logger, and then you can log your messages, and the messages will be logged to the appropriate logging structure that you have created by creating your handler and your formatter. In your other modules, what you will do is you will import the logging module as well, and then you will create your logger, and you will mention the main logger from which your module has derived its logging functionality. So this will inherit the logging configuration that we set up in our main module. Then you use this logger in order to log your messages just like before. So you will define the handlers and the formatters in your main module, and in your other modules, you will specify the main module from which your logger will derive. This is how you do basic and advanced logging in Python.